everyone, welcome to Sprinkle Some Love with a Cause by Trisha Mullin. Today we have Tonia Smith here. She suffers from epilepsy and gastroparesis. I definitely want to start off with her journey and kind of like where it started for her. Hi Tonia, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
So if you would like to kind of tell the audience a little bit more about your first initial diagnosis and kind of how old you were and where that started off in your life.
Well, I got diagnosed with gastroparesis back in December of 2021.
Okay.
And epilepsy, I've had it since I was 2 years old.
Okay, so epilepsy you've had since you were two. So let's kind of start with that a little bit first. Um, how was dealing with that as you were growing up? Like, what did you have to go through a little bit?
I've had two lots of hospital stays when I was little because like I would have seizures and like I'd have to get these EEGs done
Okay,
and um, it was scary.
definitely. Um, how how often do you have seizures, and what type of seizures do you have with your epilepsy?
I They're pretty well controlled now since I'm on medicine for them. But I have them like every so often. They just come out of nowhere,
Okay.
and sometimes I have them. Sometimes I have them in my sleep, and like I'll wake up and my eyes will be like very dilated.
Oh, okay. And that's currently?
Yeah,
And as a child, how were they? Were they more often before your diagnosis initially, or how were they as a kid?
they were more often.
More often. At what age would you say you kind of got them under control at to where they're not so often? What age would you say that would be?
Like 12 or 13.
Okay, so that's about 10 years of trying to figure out what medications work for you in your version of epilepsy. Okay. And what medications was it that you finally realized was going to work for you?
Um, it was yeah, I think it was I was like 15 maybe. I don't exactly remember.
Okay. And was it what medications are working for you currently?
Oh, Keppra and Tokamak.
Okay. And was that something you started at 15, or is that something you just recently discovered works for you?
Well, I started Keppra when I was 15, and the Topamax I just started not long ago.
Okay. And how often a day do you have to take those? Once, twice, three times?
Twice a day.
Twice a day. Okay, and for those of you who don't understand epilepsy, those medications monitor like her levels, and her levels are very important to adjust on a regular and to keep in order. Because if you don't keep those levels in order, then you'll have a seizure. So it's kind of almost reminds me of someone with diabetes, where you have to keep like constant record of their sugar levels. It's not their sugar levels, it's a whole nother concept of levels, but keeping their levels in control with what works for their body is kind of a lot similar to like managing diabetes in a way where you have to do a lot of lab work. You have to keep track of like your levels of everything, what's going on in your body, and how much of this and how much of that are we off on, and should we up the meds or lower the meds. And that's a constant battle. Epilepsy is very severe when you have to be medicated at least 2 to 3 times a day. You're definitely doing a lot of lab work over like constantly. They're just over a lifetime. So I feel for you. Um, what are you currently doing for your epilepsy? Like I know you're on those meds, but I know that you're in the hospital. So can you kind of describe like what happened and what got you to the hospital currently?
Well, I was currently in the hospital for my gastroparesis, but
Okay.
then I um my sugar got low because I wasn't able to eat or drink anything for several days. I just kept getting sick, and um so and then I ended up seizing in the ER, and so they ended up admitting me.
Okay. So what in 2021 when you first or 2000 what year did you get diagnosed you said with GP?
It was in December of 2020.
2020. So what was going on at that year that got you your initial diagnosis? Let's kind of start with that there.
Um, I started losing a bunch of weight, and I started having like a bunch of pain in my abdomen, and I was I would eat one or two bites of food and I'd be completely full, and just it would cause a bunch of pain, and then I'd just get sick a lot. So I went, and they suggested me to see a GI doctor. So I went and seen a GI doctor, and they ran a test on me, and they found out that I had it. So
So they did a delayed emptying study test where you ate like a radioactive egg and went in like a CAT
yeah,
scan machine for 4 hours or several hours to
yeah,
monitor. Do you know the outcome of how slow your digestive system was at that time?
it was. I no, they didn't tell me. They just said it was really really slow.
Okay, so it was really, really bad, is what they were saying for how slow it
Yeah,
was. So, what action did they take at that point? Did they start you on Reglan? Did they start you on any form of anti, like Zola or Zolfran, like for vomiting, or any type of? How did they aid
yeah.
you?
They started me on Reglan and they started me on Zofran, but those didn't work. So they suggested me to see a surgeon here in Louisville.
Where was that surgeon located again?
In Louisville,
Louisville. What state is that?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay. And when did you go there?
Yeah, and I ended up having pyloroplasty surgery for the first surgery, and
Can you
he told
describe what
me
that is for our audience who doesn't know what surgery that
um,
is?
basically it's where he cuts you in four small spots, and he it's hard to explain.
It's okay. Explain it the best
Bas-
way you know how. It doesn't have to be medically correct. Just what you feel was done. Like how what was your take on that? Like what did they do?
and he like opens your part. It's like a part of your stomach. It's called the pylorus,
Okay.
and tries to get those nerves to start working like they're supposed to. Because basically, um, since your stomach is paralyzed, he tries to open up your pylorus where you can start digesting food better. But mine was so enlarged that um, it didn't. The first surgery didn't work, so
So then what did you do for the second surgery?
the second surgery, he placed a stimulator in my stomach to send signals to the nerves in my stomach to not it's supposed to help with vomiting and nausea to not do that. And
Okay.
he's had to adjust it a few times already.
Okay. And adjusting it, what does that entail? Like, how do they adjust it? Is that another surgery or is there a different way to adjust it?
No, no, he just has you hold this thing. It's like a handheld thing up against where the stimulator is,
Okay.
and he has this device, and he can just like remotely turn it up or down.
Oh, that's awesome. That is very savvy. I definitely like that. Okay. And so you just go to the office and have that done a few times. And then has it worked for you? Have you been able to digest food and been able to properly use the bathroom to expose of the food?
No, that's actually why I'm currently in the hospital, but I'm doing better um, since he adjusted it again while I was in the hospital. I think yesterday.
Okay.
He came up here and adjusted it again.
And then since yesterday, have you felt any sense of relief in that area? Or have you been able to relieve yourself
Yeah,
in a bowel movement?
yeah.
Okay.
I felt some relief. Yeah.
Good. Those are good signs. What type of diet are you on?
Well, they did have me on a clear liquid diet, but I started holding it down, so they had me like on a soft food diet now.
Okay. So how many days have you been on soft food?
I just started today.
Oh, that's very good. That's signs of progression. Um, and as far as your seizures go right now, what is your current situation there? What is their treatment plan for you?
Um, they said whenever I get released from the hospital, they want me to see my neurologist and have her like adjust my medicines. They don't feel like comfortable doing it here since they're not my neurologist.
Do they have a neurologist on site?
Yes, they have a neurology team.
Can't their neurology team work with your doctor via email or phone or via like through a video chat or a Zoom?
I didn't ask them that.
Maybe there is a form or something you could fill out to allow that to happen. But if they feel it needs to be adjusted, why would they send you home? I know that you and I had spoke about some other issues going on with your leg and stuff. Did they figure any of that out? And can you kind of let the audience know a little bit more about what's going on with that so we can kind of get a bigger, full understanding?
Well, what's going on with my leg and foot is it's turning out, and like I lose my balance. So I'm having to do physical therapy while I'm up here.
Okay, and
Um,
that's a result from the last seizure you had because you didn't have that condition prior, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
They
And
think I, they think I have a damaged nerve.
where do they think you have the damaged nerve at?
Probably, I think they said in the lower back area.
Okay, were they able to take you today for any of the scans, like the CAT scan or MRI?
No, I think they're gonna do it tomorrow.
Okay, and then that'll determine more of what's going on with that situation.
Yeah.
And as far as rehabilitation goes, what does your rehabilitation consist of right now? For those of you who don't know, every time someone has a seizure, they have to rehabilitate their body, their muscles, and retrain their body to basically walk and to be able to function. So, how has that been working for you currently?
It's been hard. Like, when I did physical therapy, I had to use a walker, and they had me like walk the hallway.
Okay. Have you fallen or had any issues doing that, or have you been successful?
Well, I almost fell, so the physical therapist was standing right behind me with
Uh,
this belt around my waist so I won't fall.
Perfect. That's great. That they're there to help you and that you didn't actually fully fall. Um, so at this point, do they have like around the clock care for you to be able to go to the bathroom and tend to your daily needs, or how are they managing your care?
They have around the clock care.
Okay. So you have like a nurse help you go do the bathroom or just do the basic things that you need or help you change your clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, are you planning to go to inpatient or outpatient rehabilitation when upon your discharge?
Outpatient.
Outpatient. And about how long do you think that process will be for you to rehabilitate?
Probably be a long process.
Okay. Would you like if we checked up on you through that process, or sent you
Yeah.
our prayers and things?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Awesome. Have you ever had children?
Yes, I have to.
You have two children. How has being pregnant while fighting been for you? What was it like during pregnancy?
Well, my first kid, when I was pregnant with her, I didn't really have as much morning sickness or anything with hers. I did have high blood pressure and I was like hospitalized a lot. But my second child, um, it was total different. And I stayed sick with her, and I was in the hospital for like I don't like 4 months or so, and she um she was breech, and they ended up sending me like to Cape Girardeau, and she was trying to come earlier than expected, like 30 weeks. But
And you
then,
said she was breech?
yeah, she was breech.
Okay, which means that the baby is coming out feet first, not head first, for those of you who don't know what that means. But, and she was earlier than should be, but she should have already been flipped over at 36 weeks and not be breech at that point. So there's like a double issue there. So what did they do to help you with that? And how did your body handle like the stress of that with your epilepsy? Like, did that interfere at all?
Yeah, and it interfered a lot because they kept me like in the ICU, I think. Yeah, the ICU and up in Cape to watch me closely because I kept having seizures and her heart rate kept like dropping and whatnot. So
Right, because that's what I was
it
gonna say.
was
When you're
really rough.
breech, that tends to, like, and you're early and you're in labor, your heart rate and all of your whole body is going through a fully transition, and that transition can be very hard on epilepsy. So yeah, that's very hard. You're very strong, definitely. I commend you. Like, you're a warrior for sure. Um, who has been your support system through all of these battles?
Mainly my mom.
Okay. What would you say she's been supportive with, like the most?
Um, like when I'm really sick and not feeling well, she'd be there for me, and she'd also help me take care of the kids. Like she would support me the way
Okay.
I would need it and help when I need the extra help. She'd be there.
Okay. That's awesome to have a great mom and a great grandmother for the children, to be able to have that bond and connection and support, and unity, with, just team. That's great. What would you say to your mom if she was listening now, and you could thank her? What would you say?
I I'd say I love her and I thank her for everything she does for me.
Definitely. And are you married, or do you have a husband or a boyfriend, or is the father of the children in the picture?
No, the father of the children's not really in the picture because he went off and got married to some other chick. Um, but the but I have a boyfriend and he helps too. So
Okay. And is he supportive as well of your medical conditions?
yes,
What would you say to him if he was listening?
I'd say I love him and I thank him for being so supportive and everything.
Definitely. So, how old are your children?
2 and 3.
And how old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23 currently. Yes, you're so young and so beautiful, and you are such a fighter. And I definitely want to follow up with you. I want to ask you a little bit more, though, about like anxiety and depression. And have you had to deal with any of that with your hospital stays or during your fight?
Yes, I've dealt with both of those. Um, Being away from my family and friends, kind of felt down. Um, because I'm like 4.5 hours away from home.
Okay. Is that because of where the hospital is located, or is that because of
It's
just.
where the hospital is located.
So, is that the
Because
nearest hospital to you?
the local hospital in my town, um, I went there first when I started feeling really bad, and they didn't really do anything for me. So I just went up here where I had my surgery, and they said I was really pale and they could tell I wasn't feeling good, so they went ahead and admitted me.
Okay.
And
So, what happened at the first hospital, though, if you don't mind me asking about that? Um, what was that experience a little bit more like?
they just acted like they didn't really care. They told me that I would be fine and just sent me home feeling like I was running a fever and everything. Like I was pale, running a fever, not able to hold anything down, not even my medications.
So, they acted like you had the
And
flu?
yeah, and I told them I had gastroparesis, and they they of course I guess they don't know anything about that because it's a small hospital.
So, did they tell you that they didn't know anything about that, or did they have to Google it, or what did they do that
They
made you
don't. They
feel?
just told me they don't. They told me they don't know much about it.
Okay, so they weren't aware of this. Okay. And what about epilepsy? Were they aware of what that was?
Mm, yeah, they're aware of what that is, but they just, like I said, they just sent me on my way.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they really knew much about either condition. Like maybe there wasn't an on site neurologist that could give a better understanding. Because a lot of people that don't know about epilepsy will be like, well, she's not having a seizure today, and that's not what she came in for. But still, any amount of stress on your body, like even if you had the flu, and it really was the flu, even that alone can avert up to a seizure if it's not properly handled and addressed quickly, because any type of stress on your body can put you into a seizure state possibly. So I don't know. I just feel like that was just, just for I mean, a lot of times we get that with GP, and I expect that. But the fact that you have epilepsy, I feel like they should have definitely considered a little bit more treatment there. And regardless of how small they are, everyone has basic training in epilepsy when you work in an emergency room, because epilepsy is a little bit more common than GP, and it's harder to manage. So most hospitals have a neurologist of some sort, And normally, when a patient with epilepsy comes in, a neurologist gets on the case regardless of whether they had a seizure or not. So I don't know. I wouldn't really go back to that hospital either. I would probably feel the same way you did. It's luckily, but 4.5 hours is a long time to drive when you're not knowing what's going on with your body, but you know you need help. You're dehydrated. You're sick. Like that's just a lot. And then to drive back, that's a whole day trip without even spending time in the ER. That's
Yeah, but
that's
I didn't drive. A friend drove me up there.
Well, I could only imagine. I don't think I would be able to do the drive myself either, to be honest. Shouts out to that friend. That is a true support right there. And I'm glad that they helped you to that extent. It sucks that the family is really far, though, and that everyone is so far because that's a vacation trip away, like 4 or 5 hours. That's something that's not just something like we just hop in the car and just go visit you today and bring you flowers and have a cup of coffee. So I feel for you because then you feel often alone. So, what are the positive techniques that you're implying to not get sucked into the depression of it and not let it fully affect you? What are you doing for those things? Do you adopt color? Do you crochet? Do you have a hobby?
I draw.
Perfect. Do you share your drawings or sell them, or what do you do with them?
I just keep them.
Awesome. What type of stuff do you draw? Like, what do you like to draw?
Um, Crosses and other things.
Okay. I wouldn't mind taking a look at that one day if you're interested in sharing your work. Hello?
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know I thought something happened with my phone. So at this point, do you do any treatments for anxiety or depression, like medication wise?
Yeah, I take Zoloft.
Okay. And how does that work for you currently?
It works good. Like it keeps me calm and everything.
Okay. And at this point, what would you say has been like the hardest part of having GP? Like, what were your battles with that other than the current hospital? Have you ever had any other hospital stays with GP?
No, but
No.
I've been like back and forth to the ER for it.
Okay. And why were you,
I let myself go too far this time, and
okay?
I guess that's when I was hospitalized. I waited too long to go to the
Possibly.
hospital.
Why were you going to the ER previously? What were your conditions at that time?
Um, Unable to hold anything down, just about like this.
Hmm. So you would normally just go sooner rather than later, and it's normally just an ER visit, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're definitely still a battler and warrior, and the battles that you're facing are very hard. I commend you for sure. Um, what would you say if somebody was kind of fighting GP and epilepsy at the same time? My mother in law, she fights both of those. So I kind of know a little bit about your battle because would help take care of her over the years. So, I've seen her go through a million things, so I can only imagine the things you've gone through. What would you say if somebody was, similar to that and they were ready to give up? What would you say to them?
I'd say don't give up, stay strong, and fight. Just it will get better in time.
Okay. What would you say would be the key steps to getting better, like with your medication wise or self help? Like what do you feel would be some things that they should keep an eye on to monitor to help get better?
Take it easy, and if you can't hold anything down, just might go to try insures or clear liquids or whatever.
Okay.
And
No, continue.
that's to gain your strength back.
Yes, you definitely need to gain your strength back. And as far as for epilepsy, what would you say for managing of that? What advice would you give for someone who feels like they can't get their epilepsy under control?
Um, Talk to your neurologist about your medications. Maybe get it adjusted right so you can get it under control.
Okay. Well, your advice has been very good. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show and like talking a little bit about this and how this is working for you and the things you're dealing with at such a young age, such a big battle. I definitely look forward to doing a follow up with you, and I definitely hope that the rehabilitation helps get you back on your feet and where you need to be, and that in no time everything is back right. I'm hoping that your GP, whatever you guys do decide to do for the current treatment plan of that it works. I'm hoping that adjustment is all you needed and everything's good to go. Um, I'm definitely going to be praying for you. Um, and you will be in my prayers and my thoughts for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Until next time, Tonia, I appreciate you coming on and I look forward to our follow up.
Okay.
All right,
You're welcome.
you have a good day. And don't forget, you can message me at any time. And do you want anyone to be able to follow you on Facebook, perhaps, and do follow your journey? Because I know you share it and post it very often. If we have anybody interested, would you like to share your Facebook page?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I can do that.
All right. How do we spell your name for the audience if they want to look you up on Facebook?
Tonia.
Okay. And then Smith is Smith.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. For Tonia Smith. For those of you who are looking for her, we can find her on Facebook. I will also tag her link on my Facebook if you check out the podcast there. I appreciate you tuning in with Sprinkle Some Love with a Cause. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you later, Tonia.
All right.
Bye-bye.